In this video today, I'm going to explain to you how you can continue to memorize and learn new vocab without ever having to sit down and study it again. And there is one disclaimer I do need to make before we get into this video. This method only works for people at a high, intermediate or advanced level in Spanish. But if you are at a more beginner level, this tip won't apply to you and you may as well click off the video now and revisit it when you are reaching a high, intermediate level of Spanish. And now you've got that out of the way, my name is Rory. I've been studying Spanish for over 5 years now, and I also have a community online dedicated towards intermediate and advanced learners in Spanish to help them reach fluency. And that is where this method has come from. And there are three main reasons why I recommend that you follow this method as a high intermediate learner of Spanish. And number one is because the traditional way of learning vocab is just so boring. It's so tedious to do every single day, sitting down and studying vocab, whether that be on an app, writing out words and then covering them up and testing yourself on them every single day. And reason number two is I don't think that this method of studying vocab is really that effective at all. Unfortunately, at more beginner levels, it's something that you have to do because you haven't built up the skill set to be able to incorporate it into your speaking. However, once you reach that high intermediate level, it's just not worth your time at all. And reason number three is if you are trying to reach conversational fluency in Spanish, learning new vocab is still so important to reaching fluency, because you need to have a wide range of vocab in order to express yourself in loads of different ways and be able to hold your own in loads of different conversations. For example, being able to have vocab related to sports or interesting stories that you maybe need specific vocab about, a description of something, you know, all of these things that you learn as you grow and you improve your vocab, it will just make things so much easier and help you reach fluency, because you need a really vast and wide range of vocab in order to hold your own in another language. And that is why I think that this method is so important and why learning vocab is still really important at a high, intermediate or even close to fluent level of Spanish. So now let's break down this method of learning vocab. And the first thing I need to mention is that this method comes from my intermediate to advanced course in Spanish. And I'm not saying that you need to follow this course in order to implement this method. However, you need to be following a similar sort of plan. But what basically you need to be doing in order to incorporate this method into your Spanish learning is you need to be speaking regularly throughout the week. I recommend within my course you speak between 5 to 15 minutes every single day. But if that isn't possible for you, I'd recommend at least you're speaking 3 to 4 times every single week. And the second part of this process is listening. I recommend to everyone within my course that you listen between an hour to 2 hours of Spanish every single day. And if you are doing at least 15-20 minutes of listening every single day and you're speaking 3 to 4 times a week, this will still work for you. So hopefully you are already doing these things, because as a high intermediate learner of Spanish, developing your conversational skills and your comprehension are the two most important things that you can be doing in order to reach that fluent level of Spanish. And how this process is going to work is the first thing I want you to do is every time you speak from now on, I want you to have a notepad that you have available that you can write on, and you also have a website called Word Reference open on another tab when you were speaking. And if you're unfamiliar as to what Word Reference is, for me personally, I think it's the best online dictionary for Spanish, because number one, it gives you all the translations in Spanish of one word. It also gives you good examples to help you solidify your understanding of it. And it also explains nuances that I find other online dictionaries don't give you. And the reason I want you to have this tab open and I want you to have this notepad available when you are speaking is because what happens when you are speaking is eventually you're going to run into new territories. You're going to run into moments where you're like, I don't know what this word is in Spanish. I don't know what this phrase is in Spanish. And what I want you to do is quickly have Word Reference open and available to use and quickly search up what that word or that phrase is. And then you can immediately incorporate it into your speaking and continue speaking. And the reason I want you to have a notepad available as well is every time you have to search up a word on Word Reference, I want you to write it down, because I want you to create a bank of words that you come across and you learn during your speaking sessions. We're going to explain the vocab bank a little bit later, but these are the two main things I want you to do. Every time you sit down to speak and you come across a word that you don't know or have forgotten, I want you to search it up on Word Reference and then quickly make a note of it before you continue to speak. And now moving on to the listening section, every time that you are listening to these podcasts, if you are regularly coming across words that you don't know or have been used more than once, it's likely that they are very commonly used in Spanish and are big gaps within your vocab bank that you should learn. So I want you to do is quickly again search those up on Word Reference, get the meaning, and then make a note on your phone or whatever you have available, and then later on you can add it to that notepad that we talked about from your speaking. Because I'm not expecting you to carry around this notepad every time you're doing listening to Spanish. Obviously that's not reasonable. You might be on public transport, you might be in a busy moment, but you can still make a note of that word on the notes app on your phone and later revisit it and add it to that vocab bank we mentioned. And obviously if you are at a high intermediate level in Spanish and you were listening to native speakers podcasts, it's likely that you're going to be coming across a lot of new vocab. And I'm not expecting you to search up every single word that you come across when you're listening to these podcasts, but I just want you to pick up on ones that you think may be of great importance, whether that be the way that they're expressed within the sentence makes you think, oh, I should probably know that word, or that word seems to have quite an importance to this sentence and I need to understand what it is in order to understand this conversation. These are the kind of words I want you to be searching up. And over time, as you reach more advanced and fluent levels of Spanish, the amount of vocab that you don't understand will decrease and decrease. And then you can start searching up more of those filler words or those less important words to sort of branch out your vocab. But for now, let's focus focus on the most important ones and then search those up on word reference and then make a note of them on your phone or your device that you have available, and then later add them to that vocab bank that we mentioned before. And hopefully now you have a clear idea as to how I want you to go about making a note of this vocab that you come across when it comes to the speaking and listening. And now I'm going to explain the final part of this process. And what it is hopefully over time, as you do your listening and speaking, this vocab bank is getting bigger and bigger. And how we're going to go about memorizing and learning these words is by what I call a speaking challenge. This is what I recommend everyone does within my course. And basically what a speaking challenge is once a week, I want you to incorporate that key vocab that you've come across that week, that you've noted down. I want you to incorporate it into your own speaking. And this can be quite a tough challenge because you're having to come up with sentences related to the vocab that you come across that week. And the reason why I think that this method is so beneficial is because you are not just memorizing singular words. What you are doing is you're incorporating what you are learning into your own speaking. You are forced to make sentences revolve around this vocab. And what this means is it's so much more likely for you to memorize this vocab and remember it in the long run because you are incorporating it into your speaking. And what this means is in the future, and you're more likely to use it and therefore more likely to remember it. Because as we said before, in the old style of memorizing words, all you are doing is memorizing singular words. And when you memorize these singular words, it's likely that you're not going to use them, and therefore over time you are going to forget them. And how are you going to avoid this? By using them. And that is why I recommend the speaking challenges. So instead of wasting your time going through flashcards trying to remember all of this vocab, just spend 15 minutes once a week practicing incorporating the vocab that you've learned that week into your speaking. And I personally find it quite a fun challenge because it's something different, it's something fresh, where you're actually speaking and practicing your conversational skills and improving that whilst expanding your vocabulary in Spanish. So yeah, hopefully you found this video beneficial, and if you are at an intermediate or advanced level in Spanish, I'd recommend checking the link in the description. And yeah, hopefully you found this video beneficial. Hasta la próxima. Adios.